Let me talk a bit about Stephen King and what I feel was his most effective horror novel, Cujo. Before I start, I would like to ask for your comments. What Stephen King works do you like the most? What adaptation do you feel captured the essence of the original source material? And most importantly, how do you feel about Cujo? Stephen King, writer, master of horror, incredibly prolific, knocking out 70 published novels, not including nonfiction entries so far. Countless short stories collected in anthologies, a staggering number of adaptations as well, both on the silver screen and on televised or streaming platforms. Icon. His debut novel, Carrie, came out in 1974 and set the bar pretty high. His best work, in my opinion, is Wizard and Glass from 1997, the fourth book of the Dark Tower series. This story, not horror, but a fantasy tale, extremely intimate, took my breath away and was, I think, the fourth book I read that actually made me cry. I felt as I finished it that everything Stephen King had written before Wizard and Glass was just practice for that novel. Yet it is Cujo, published in 1981, with a movie version coming out in 1983, that stands out to me as perhaps King's most effective horror novel. Why is this, you may ask, when he has so many other terrifying stories like It and Salem's Lot? I will explain, but first, let me give a brief summary of the plot. A wife and mother in an unsatisfying marriage, desperate enough to find happiness that she cheats on her husband, who finds out, her 4-year-old son, who she only wants to keep safe and make happy, a mechanic who works cheap and lives on a farm outside of town, his dog, Cujo, a massive Saint Bernard, usually friendly, but now infected with rabies, and the unendurable heat of high summer. The mother drives her failing car to the mechanic's farm, son in tow. This is long before the invention of cell phones or smartphones. After getting out of the car and heading towards the farmhouse, the mother spots the mechanic lying in a bloody heap on his porch, torn to shreds and lifeless. Around the corner of the house, alerted to the family's arrival by the sound of their car, comes Cujo, his muzzle spoiled with blood. Cujo rushes at the mother, who barely manages to get back in the car with her son as Cujo rams the door. As the day passes and the sun rises higher and higher into the sky, the interior of the car grows hotter and hotter and hotter. Cujo stays near, circling the car, mad from his infection. They have no water. If they stay in the car, they will perish. If she gets out and makes a run for the house, and Cujo gets her, her son will perish in the car by himself. There's no hope. Even when the sheriff stops by on unrelated matters, the spark of salvation is snuffed out by the jaws of the massive, insane Cujo. I won't spoil how the book ends, but I will say that the movie makes some changes while remaining extremely faithful to the original story. There is enough deviation to make it an enjoyable watch for those who have read the novel prior to seeing the movie. If you haven't read Cujo or seen the film version, I highly recommend that you do both. Why do I hold Cujo in such high regard? Easy. It can happen. No fantastical monsters, no ghosts or otherwise supernatural creatures, no vampires or psychics or aliens or divine hands of God. It is a dog with rabies. And you are trapped in a dead car on a hot summer day with no water or air conditioning, far from help, and with no way to call for any. It is terrifyingly mundane, horrifyingly real. The closest I can think of with a similarly realistic plotline is Jaws, I suppose. But I grew up in the prairies. No shark was going to get me thousands of kilometers from the nearest ocean. And no shark could get me anyway if I didn't go swimming in that ocean. So while scary in the theater, I didn't have to keep my head on a swivel walking home from the theater. I doubted there was going to be a shark creeping up on the street behind me. Cujo was different. There were dogs everywhere, some of them very big, usually friendly, but with rabies? Raccoons and coyotes and lots of other vectors around a small town in the countryside. One of those dogs could turn insane at any moment. When I was younger, I was very open about the supernatural, enough so that I took classes in it in university and tried to learn and experiment with it as much as possible. Unfortunately, all of that effort made it easy to dismiss such things as impossible or unfounded. There were no ghosts, there were no vampires or werewolves. No one actually had psychic powers. But there were dogs. Sometimes they would bite. And summer in the prairies gets really, really hot. This is what sets Cujo apart for me. It's plausibility. When a big dog comes around the corner off leash, I get into a defensive stance. This could be the one. Anyway, what do you think? Where does Cujo rate for you on your personal horror scale? What Stephen King stories or adaptations give you the most chills? Please leave a comment and tell me what you think. Thanks for watching. See you next time.